Could you imagine threats so secret that not even the Secret Service could detect them? Because that's what they're saying. That's what they're saying. The Secret Service has come out and said, nope, Erica's a liar, and so is her mama. Okay, basically, I'm being a little bit dramatic. They didn't say her mama was a liar, but I just added that. I'm not lying as much as her. They definitely said she was lying. There's no other way to interpret the statement that they released.
So Candace Owens just exposed one of the biggest political psyops we've seen in years, and it involves the Secret Service publicly calling out lies from Turning Point USA. This isn't just embarrassing, it's a complete dismantling of their credibility. Let's break down how this entire deception unraveled.
I had such a laugh earlier because just this entire situation at the University of Georgia, it's objectively hilarious. You kind of just sometimes have to stand back and watch it all and recognize that it's a sitcom. Turning Point USA has turned into a sitcom. Somehow Erica really thought that she was just going to get away with saying that there was this very credible threat against her life and nobody would go, oh, wait, you probably shouldn't say that with the vice president in the room. Like, you can't just say stuff. That's one of my phrases. You can't just say stuff, but you definitely shouldn't just say stuff when you have the vice president of the United States with you.
The security implications here are massive. When you claim threats exist during a vice presidential event, you're essentially saying federal agencies missed something. That's not just embarrassing, it questions their basic competence. No wonder they felt compelled to respond publicly.
And here is the headline. This is in Barry Weiss's CBS, no less, okay? So this is like, she's got contacts at CBS, and even they had to just run this headline. Secret Service determines no credible threats to UGA rally after Erica Kirk's cancellation, the source says. Embedded in the article, it reads, the U.S. Secret Service determined there were no credible threats to Tuesday's Turning Point USA rally at the University of Georgia, even as a planned co-appearance by Erica Kirk was canceled over unspecified security concerns. A person familiar with the matter tells CBS News, according to the source, that the site was secure and there were no known threats to the protectee. That would be VP. Now, while Kirk may have received hostile messages, including on social media, those were not part of any identified or actionable threat stream that was monitored by federal authorities. And let me interpret that for you, okay?
This is unprecedented. The Secret Service almost never contradicts someone's security claims publicly. The fact they went to CBS shows how serious Kirk's deception was. She didn't just lie to supporters, she impugned federal law enforcement's professional reputation.
There's literally no way to separate this. When the vice president is speaking, if he's going to speak at an event and Candace Owens is going to be on stage, the federal authorities are going to be looking online for threats against Candace Owens, because you're not going to be like, oh, well, that person said they're going to kill Candace Owens, but don't worry, Veep. They're only going to go, when they're there, they're only going to kill Candace. She's interviewing you on stage, but don't worry about this threat. No, of course, they also would be looking at threats against Turning Point USA, about threats against that were being directed toward Erica Kirk. And they said this was not happening. There was a threat against Erica would have been a threat against the VP.
Exactly right about the protocol. When protecting the vice president, every potential threat in the vicinity gets assessed. There's no such thing as a threat that only targets one person when they're sharing a stage. Kirk's story was logistically impossible from day one.
Right, that would imply that her security team had intel that they did not have, and the intel was deemed so credible that they decided that she could not do the event, but the Secret Service just decided to press on and to allow the VP. You're basically saying the Secret Service is not good at their job. And they said, no, we're going to come out and we're going to clarify matters. This is mortifying for Turning Point USA. This is Erica Kirk girl bossing a little too close to the sun. She's just been getting away with all these lies, making phone calls. And finally, the Secret Service just checked her. Now,
the Secret Service response shows how calculated this lie was. By claiming credible threats existed, Kirk was essentially saying federal agents were incompetent. They couldn't let that stand unchallenged. Their reputation depends on public confidence in their capabilities.
Actually, I am sure. Probably because this option was so nonsensical in my mind that it did not even occur to me to consider it. The idea that Erica could have actually been in Georgia already and that she truly canceled in the last minute after she had already been to the venue, that never even crossed my mind. I assumed wrongly that she must have been in Scottsdale, right? That's the only way to make the story work. They said somebody was tracking her flight. Okay, well, obviously, that's got to be a Scottsdale thing. That, in my mind, I thought this, right? And she then decided not to fly in because of some threats. But ladies and gentlemen, I was wrong. That is not what happened at all.
This timeline revelation changes everything. If Kirk was already in Georgia, her entire narrative about flight threats becomes impossible. The investigation work by citizen journalists like Baron Coleman proves how powerful independent media has become in exposing establishment lies.
And you're not going to believe how this actually went down, Erica canceling her event. So right at the top, I just want to say that us as a society, we deserve better psyops. This is starting to feel disrespectful. She is all over the place. They're all over the place. And I just want to say that we deserve better psyops. But I want you to know that the lie that she told here is so big that it is worthy of not just her having to step down, but Andrew Colvett should frankly also have to resign in shame once I show you how this went down.
The citizen journalism aspect here is crucial. When mainstream outlets won't investigate, independent researchers step up. The fact that tips from viewers helped expose Kirk's location proves how the information landscape has fundamentally shifted away from institutional gatekeepers.
People are going to be sent ahead of him. Military guys are going to be sent ahead of him, ahead of his arrival. Of course, they don't do this on the day of, right? They're not just figuring it out with the number 2 guy in the United States. So on the day of his arrival, they already know how things are going to run, and the entire perimeter, there's going to be an entire perimeter that is set up around wherever he's traveling, right? You're not going to be able to get close to the vice president when he is traveling. So there is, in my mind, therefore, there was a 0% chance that Erica had a viable threat pertaining to her travel while she was already in Georgia. I just completely said that's not an option. It had to be in Scottsdale.
The advanced security protocols make Kirk's story impossible. Vice presidential sites get swept 48 hours ahead, with military personnel securing perimeters. If she was already inside that secured zone, claiming sudden threats is like saying danger appeared inside Fort Knox.
Well, let's start before. On Saturday evening, Erica Kirk flew into Palm Beach because she was attending Bettina's bridal shower, which took place on Sunday. Here are some photos of her on Sunday at Bettina, soon-to-be Trump's bridal shower. She's engaged to Don Trump Jr. I instantly assessed that this was taking place on Sunday because Ivanka's there, and so is Ivanka's daughter. And that tells us that obviously it's not Saturday because Ivanka they're Orthodox. So that happened on Sunday. On Monday, Erica elected to stay in Palm Beach. On Tuesday, she flew from West Palm Beach up to Athens, Georgia for her event.
The Palm Beach timeline is damning. She was leisurely attending bridal showers while supposedly under serious security threats. This shows the calculated nature of her deception. She was living normally until she needed an excuse for poor event planning.
And I want to be clear, she therefore flew into the already secured by the Secret Service. The federal government had already secured this days earlier. The private airport and the terminal, the very same one that the vice president was due to arrive in, okay? Their story is done. It's done right there. So we're going to look at the timeline from that day so that you can appreciate the audacity of the lie that they tried to sell us.
Landing in a pre-secured federal zone destroys her entire story. You can't claim threats emerged after arriving somewhere the Secret Service already swept for the vice president. It's like claiming you felt unsafe inside the White House bunker.
At 1:27 p.m., Erica departed West Palm Beach for the Georgia event. At 2:40, Erica landed into Athens, Georgia. At 3:53 p.m., J.D. Vance's plane begins circling in the air above North Carolina because this is when he receives the phone call that Erica doesn't want to do the event. I'm going to assume Erica called him personally, so you can see that little loop-de-loop. We're going to come down here. Maybe more like... Yeah, and he just starts, I don't know if we're going to do this event. I'll show you a clip of him admitting, thankfully Barron put me onto this, that it was 2 hours before he got onto stage. So that's 3:53. He's circling in the air. He gets the phone call. Erica's crashing out. And she's not just going to be on the tarmac freaking out and saying there's no safety.
That hour-plus gap is the smoking gun. She lands safely, everything's fine, then suddenly claims threats right before showtime? The timeline proves this was last-minute panic about attendance, not security concerns. Pure calculation, not genuine fear.
So into the same airport as Erica. There's no threat. No threat. There's nobody waiting at the airport that was like, oh no, you're good. I know you boys are with JD Vance, the vice president. I'm actually, I'm only here for Erica. I'm only going to harm Erica. 5:00 p.m., the Y-Refi guy who's around too much, he opens now every tour stop and pitches Y-Refi while he opened this event at 5 p.m. And it looks certainly like he acknowledges Erica on stage and looks to the left. He says her name and he says, like, thank you, Erica. I'm going to show you the clip because it signals to me that Erica was just off to the left off stage. Like, that's where you would stand. I've done a million events that she was just off stage.
The physical evidence of her presence backstage while claiming security fears is devastating. This suggests she was physically there, saw the crowd size, panicked about optics, and invented the threat story as face-saving damage control.
She was in the building and she was backstage where people could not see her. Okay. And what likely happened was they had assessed that people were not showing up and Erica was going into a meltdown. Barron even pointed out the fact that Andrew was dressed way too casually, and Andrew is like very metrosexual, that he was just dressed way too casually to interview JD Vance. Like, this literally all had to happen last second because Andrew Colvett does know how to dress appropriately for venues. He would not have been dressed like that to interview the vice president. And so this last minute thing was Erica was already at the venue. She realized nobody was coming and she wanted to cancel the event.
The attendance meltdown theory makes perfect sense. Poor turnout would be humiliating for someone building a public brand. Rather than own the failure, she chose to blame fabricated threats and make supporters feel guilty for not protecting her.
Erica did not leave Athens until 6:39 p.m. She departed Athens and she headed back for Scottsdale. So that's a long time that she was there. Okay, Erica was there for 4 hours. And there was, as the Secret Service determined, no credible threat. They would not have ignored a serious threat against Erica Kirk because that would mean there was a serious threat against the vice president. She was interviewing him. You don't separate that. And what are we to take from this? I just want to be clear, and I will continue to say this. I don't care if I have to be public enemy number one. Erica Kirk is malevolent. She is malevolent.
4 hours on site after alleged threats completely destroys her credibility. If you genuinely fear for your life, you don't hang around the supposed danger zone for hours. This proves the threat claims were pure theater from the start.
Okay, she does it often. It's the manner in which she does it. There is always a bend toward evil. Okay, let me explain what I mean. Tons of people that lie. There are people who literally have to lie for a living, PR agents, right? They have to kind of always tell us a white lie, and usually it is to afford some protection to their client. We're used to that. Oh, this artist is actually being treated in the hospital for exhaustion. Okay, we get it. They probably had an overdose and they're probably headed to rehab, right? But they're not going to tell us that because is it really our business to know that an artist had an overdose? Probably not, okay? But then there are circumstances when artists do something that is wrong and it's in public. Think when Morgan Wallen, the country star, threw a chair out of a bar window downtown here in Nashville, which he had some bad luck and unfortunately landed a few feet away from some police officers. He gets arrested. What does he do after that? He issues a public apology, said that, I went to the police station. I wanted to make sure that I apologized to everyone. I'm not happy about what I did, blah, 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 blah. Okay? Yeah, that's what you do.
The distinction between protective white lies and malicious deception is crucial. PR agents might fudge details to protect clients, but Kirk actively blamed her supporters and attacked institutions. That's not spin. That's psychological manipulation.
Okay? To throw a chair out of a bar window and then to direct your public relations team to tell the vice president that you did it because there was an immediate threat to your safety in that bar. And that's ultimately the result of deranged fans online that comment every time you sing a good country song and you threw that chair because you needed the fastest route to get back to your kids at home. Oh, I'm sorry. Now it's our fault that he threw a chair? Okay, that's weird. It's a little bit psychopathic. Only a very specific breed of a human could muster the shamelessness that it takes to abandon your public commitment. You committed that you were going to be there. You then decided you didn't want to do it. And to be clear, out of an act of vanity, you decided you didn't want to do it. You were like, oh, not enough people here. I don't want to do this anymore. And then rather than owning that and issuing a statement online and saying I didn't want to be there, or maybe nicely saying that I'll come out in a couple of days and explain to you guys why I pulled out last second. She then directs her PR team to not just make up a lie, but to create an existential threat to her life, which will ultimately assign blame on the public. You guys failed to protect me. That's why I'm not here tonight. That's vicious.
This psychological analysis hits the core issue. Instead of owning poor planning, she weaponized her supporters' loyalty against them. Making them feel responsible for her fabricated safety concerns is textbook narcissistic manipulation. Blame everyone but yourself.
I have no proof of this. I'm going to speculate here. But I do know that when Erica did not want people to show up to the Catholics for Catholics event because I was speaking there, I wasn't speaking about her, we're not speaking about politics, it was a prayer. She made personal phone calls and she cried on the phone. Okay. JD Vance's energy is giving that Erica cried on the phone. I think that when JD Vance's plane was circling, of course, Erica would have called him directly. She would not have done that via a third party person out of respect. I think she was on the phone with him. She cried. Right? His energy is like the male, I need to protect a woman in distress. Like she's a female, she's in distress. But she's like, I'm just scared. And like, I'm looking online and people are saying like, they're just saying that like they want me to die. And I'm just so overwhelmed right now, Mr. Vice President. I'm just so overwhelmed. Dab, 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 no tears. I'm so overwhelmed. And he was probably like, oh my God. And my kids, I just don't want my kids to be an orphan, Mr. Vice President. I'm so sorry. That's what I think went down.
The emotional manipulation pattern is key. Using fake vulnerability to manipulate powerful men plays into protective instincts. J.D. Vance got played by calculated tears, proving even experienced politicians can fall for basic manipulation tactics.
She didn't want to speak. She dealt with J.D., and then she directed Andrew to make up a sinister lie. We're not going to call it, it's a sinister lie, right? I think JD on the phone probably tried to assure her the Secret Service already swept everything, you're going to be fine. And then she did something along the, I'm sorry, my family. And he was completely understanding because why wouldn't he be? She's dropping like, I don't want my kids to be an orphan, which is what he implies on stage. That the Secret Service had things under control, but that he understood that she needed to do what was right for her family. That's my best read on the situation. I think Erica is calculated. And I want to say to JD Vance, you better wake up fast, okay? That's a black widow, my friend. You will get bit. And you should probably consult your wife on this matter.
The warning about manipulation tactics is vital. Women who weaponize fake vulnerability are particularly dangerous in political circles because they exploit men's protective instincts. Vance needs to recognize he was played and adjust his judgment accordingly.
That is humiliating for JD because he was manipulated. But it also represents a PR crisis of epic proportions for Erica, make no mistake. And I think it is obvious that they have some crisis PR person. And Andrew was sort of made to step aside because what an idiot for not thinking that would backfire when you loop in the executive office into this absurdity. And it looks like they hired someone probably in the last 24 hours, judging by this article that I just read. Which I'm going to show you because this is the first time that the PR was kind of good here for the first time ever. Turning Point did not gaslight the public. So whoever they brought in a woman and she's like, just stop with the BS. No one believes this. And in the article, get ready, for the first time, they're going to admit that Erica may have done some things that are wrong.
The Secret Service intervention forced a complete PR strategy pivot. When federal agencies contradict your story, usual gaslighting tactics become impossible. They had to bring in actual crisis management because their amateur hour approach finally backfired spectacularly.
Kirk has faced criticism from some online commentators who felt that her return to public life after Charlie's death was too swift, or that her appearances struck the wrong tone. A close confidant told the Daily Mail, quote, "She is aware of how she is coming across. She's not stupid. She has seen the online comments. She gets it. It hurts. Last month, the backlash reached a new level after a viral video by a comedian, Drewski, mocked Kirk's behavior after her husband's killing, featuring exaggerated expressions and fake tears. The insider continued, the Drewski video showed her what people thought of her. She's really hurt that people are feeling this way about her, that they're mocking her. She pulled out of the TPUSA event because of a bunch of factors. I don't think it was just security concerns, the source said. If there were security concerns, the vice president wouldn't have gone." That's the closest that we're going to get to her admitting that they lied and that actually she was embarrassed and that's why she pulled out.
This Daily Mail piece is basically a confession. The The new crisis PR team essentially admitted the security story was fake, and she pulled out due to embarrassment. Finally, some honesty after weeks of transparent lies and gaslighting.
It was also mental exhaustion of like, nothing I do will be right and people will make fun of me. So she canceled. Okay, so it was because there were low ticket numbers and you thought that you would be made fun of. The writer also recaps that in the weeks that followed Charlie's assassination, she returned to the public eye, appearing at events and speaking engagements despite her grief. Critics, however, claim that her behavior came across as performative or unnatural. And the insider says, quote, she says that she was putting on a face, a brave face, and that's why she was doing what she was doing. I agree that it was a bad look. Everyone told her it was a bad look, but she did it anyway. I know she's mourning Charlie, we all are, but she just has a funny way of showing it. Do I think that she's mourning enough? That's not for me to say, but do I think that she's coming across badly? Yes. That much is obvious. And finally, she's starting to see how weird it all looked.
The insider admissions vindicate every criticism. They're finally acknowledging the performative behavior, low ticket sales, and weird optics everyone pointed out. This proves the pressure campaign worked. They can't gaslight when caught this definitively.
We are catching them in the lies and they keep lying. What Andrew Kovach should have to apologize. He should apologize to the vice president. I'm sorry to say, but this feels like a win, right? We got to take it where we can get it. This feels like a win. Like at long last, someone said it's not working and we need to pivot. And that's because we have kept up the pressure and we have clocked them on every single lie. I'm at the point right now, I want Erica to just drop a book like If I Did Do It, like OJ did. If I Did Do It by Erica Kirk. I think that would move more copies than the book about Shabbat.
This victory shows investigative pressure works. When enough people refuse to accept obvious lies and keep documenting evidence, even well-funded operations eventually crack. The truth always surfaces when persistent people refuse to be gaslit into submission.